the current cybersecurity curriculum of the graduate school there at Korea University. And he has his educational background actually reflects what we're talking about here today in its interdisciplinary nature, with a PhD in law, but in the cybersecurity area. He's been deeply involved in the development of e-commerce, e-government, and cybersecurity related laws in South Korea for many years. And he's going to share with us today, I believe, a unique experiment he undertook while developing the cybersecurity curriculum from this perspective, as this diverse perspective, as policymaker, law PhD, and cybersecurity expert. So he'll be our first speaker. And then after Professor Kwon, we're back to Ryan. And I'm not sure, Ryan, if your bio has been covered extensively today, but just for those who don't know, so Ryan established the UQ Cyber Initiative, UQ's and one of Australia's first interdisciplinary cybersecurity education and research programs. So he's currently chair and director here at UQ Cyber and has previously held scientific leadership roles at Hewlett-Packard Labs and the University of Waikato in New Zealand. So I know we're going to hear a little bit more from Ryan about some of his experiences, and particularly his experiences in forming the design and delivery of UQ's Master of Cybersecurity. And just one last note from me before I throw to Professor Kwon. It's a delight to see some of our current UQ Master of Cybersecurity students in the room. So thanks for coming along, folks. And yeah, Professor Kwon, if you're there, I'd like to throw to you for your presentation. You can do a screen share if you've got the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kwon, a professor at the School of Cybersecurity of Korea University. It is a great pleasure to have a future-oriented discussion with the University of Queensland, Australia. Also, I want to extend my warmest greeting to Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade for supporting a higher perspective at the global level. The 21st century has witnessed the acceleration of digital transformation. In such a context, cybersecurity issues become an unavoidable reality. Cybersecurity is directly related to the maintenance of daily life and the survival of the nation. China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran have long been known as the main culprits undermining cyber trust and threatening international security. Cooperation for digital peace, stability, and prosperity are urgent. Cybersecurity became an area that governments and businesses must actively support rather than a problem for anyone to do. In other words, keeping quality of cybersecurity personnel at the national level is essential. In the end, discussions on what capabilities cybersecurity talent should have to train them, how to train them, and how to link them to industrial sites are necessary. Plus, at the international level, another mission is to establish a plan to cultivate cybersecurity talents together by sharing each nation's status and best practices. This will allow further joint cyber response at the international community level. 이쪽으로 넘기면 된다고 하지 않았어요? 키보드로 안 되는데? 이거 하는 거고. Okay, sorry. Personally, my educational background is in law. I received a bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhD degree at Yonsei University in Korea. Now I am a professor at Korea University's School of Cybersecurity, a law professor at the computing and the engineering departments. While researching on the IT law system, I have experience in leading the establishment of national informatization and e-government at the level of the presidential office. I learned that inducing communication in each field and linking them to institutionalization is important to the advance of society. Based on such background, I have always emphasized the significance of communication and the convergence of diverse fields. I also participated in drafting and revising various laws regarding IT and cybersecurity in Korea. I drafted many laws such as the Personal Information Protection Act, Electronic Government Act, Framework Act on Intelligent Information, Informatization, and the Framework Act on National Cybersecurity, Act on Establishment of Infrastructure for Informatization of National Defense, and Management of Informational Resources for National Defense, etc. Under the theme of fostering cybersecurity personnel, I would like to introduce the current curriculum of School of Cybersecurity of Korea University and briefly suggest the direction of further cybersecurity education. Digital has become a vital component of a new society. The world is racing for digital transformation, where digital encompasses our entire daily lives. People here will already know that cybersecurity is becoming crucial as digital is spreading. Security does not equal technical capabilities. From a comprehensive perspective, security demands understanding people, procedures, and management, and the legal system. Understanding the attributes of each areas that require security is also necessary. This means that current society needs a convergence talent. Unfortunately, the education system nowadays still remains at cultivating the human resources for old-fashioned industrial society. Teaching only technology while educating security, teaching only law while educating cybersecurity law is meaningless. The new educational design should aim to cultivate the fourth industrial revolution version of convergence talent. Those with humanity and communication skills along with technological understanding. In the future, CISO stands for Chief Information Security Officers should be deployed in all individual organizations. Starting at the monitor should not be CISO's role. Human resource management, procedure management, and if necessary, working with Congress should fulfill the role of CISO. Since cyber threats are borderless, global response capability is essential. Education on cybersecurity should be designed with such a long-term vision. In this respect, cybersecurity experts must be able to understand not only technology and the legal systems, but also people and society as a whole. Korea University operates an educational curriculum to foster convergence talent. The curriculum allows students to grow into security experts with the best technical expertise, such as attack and defense skills. A curriculum is designed to acquire balanced knowledge on both technology and policy. This is expected to serve as a stepping stone for students to grow beyond practitioners into leaders. In this respect, Korea University provides convergent education from computer science, which is the basis of cybersecurity, to social science and humanities such as law, policy, and even ethics. Furthermore, as a specialized discipline suitable for the characteristics of each field, we provide customized education such as the criminal procedure law, military science, international law, and business administration. Division of Information Security at Korea University set core educational competencies and organize the courses to nurture communicative leadership with technical expertise. Although I cannot share the detailed curriculum, we provide education that can comprehensively learn technology, law, ethics, and leadership. Instead, I would like to share the core educational competencies that were considered during the curriculum design. To achieve the aforementioned goals, students must have communication, leadership, and technological skills. As a result of agonizing over the skills essential to develop these three competencies at the same time, we derived 6 core educational competencies like empathy, communication, social responsibility, integrative thinking, creative problem solving, global capacity, and challenging leadership. Through this, students are expected to go beyond the fragmentary responses when they face specific problems after they enter a profession. Furthermore, we let students be aware that their ability and expertise affect society as a whole. Thus, the courses were designed to enhance responsibility as well as ethics that match such perceptions. Korea University's School of Cybersecurity consists of the Division of Information Security, Financial Security, Digital Forensics, and the Convergence Security. The courses focus more on issues by field and allow them to conduct relevant research. Primarily, we endeavored to establish information protection as a new field of study. The contents of the courses were designed to be linked to security practices, not just remain at the theoretical level. In such consideration, the School of Cybersecurity was established as a professional school, not just a normal graduate school. In this sense, our goal is to develop the ability to understand and converge many academic perspectives, such as computer science, electronic engineering, law, public administration, and business administration. Looking at the curriculum, prerequisite courses include law and policy, introduction to network, cryptography, computer algorithms, and the theory of information security. It is designed to help students understand the basics of cybersecurity and law. All students are designated with the courses based on their research interests. A general overview of Korea's constitutional theory, legal system, and information protection laws are dealt with throughout the law and policy courses. Foundation courses are also subject to graduation exams that all students must complete and must be taken to qualify for graduation. As we are pressed for time, I will skip the specific course contents. Those who are interested in the contents, I can tell you during the Q&A session or email after this session. Even if technological, communication, and leadership skills are cultivated, each human resource has characteristics and directions to contribute to society will differ depending on their interests. Accordingly, deriving career paths for each field to find the right personnel for the right place is a big task in cybersecurity education. Some will choose the path of cybersecurity policy decisions, another will choose the creative design and produce new technologies needed for cybersecurity, and the others will choose a path of identifying and correcting technical defects or errors. An optimistic future of cybersecurity education is expected if there is a direction to advance what career is needed for individual goals. Cybersecurity education ought to be based on social communication and technological ability. To achieve this, every course should be designed based on harmony and balance that can induce the interest of trainees. Exchange and cooperation programs for the relevant industry academia field must be included. Since the formation of the cyber world starts with the programs, professional ethics education for those specialists is crucial. Specialists themselves need to be aware of how their expertise results in society and how to make ethical decisions. To this end, innovative educational methods such as problem solving, self-directed learning, and flipped class should be applied in various ways. With that being said, educational cooperation at the international level is also significant. Since the security threats do not occur only within a specific country, we must always prepare for borderless cyber warfare. Cybersecurity education should allow the exchange of human resources, joint research, and the industry academic cooperation. For advanced cybersecurity education, best practices of education, research, and practical cases must be shared. Such mutual exchange and cooperation will be the scaffold towards a global joint response. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Kwon. So we'll hold questions until after our next presentation. So I'd now like to invite Professor Ryan Coe from the University of Queensland to take over the screen share and present on our behalf. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. So yes. It's quite an interesting topic that I need to talk about because I've been doing it a lot, but I haven't really sat down and really think about why I'm doing it or how I'm doing it. So I just want to share a bit of my our story. Actually, it's a teamwork of all the inputs that resulted in the YouTube program, and maybe through this we could also go in search of what is so-called the best educational framework for a topic like this. So a little bit about myself, as John has mentioned, I have been contributing to industry, government, and academia. But I think more than relevant to this conversation is the curricular design experience. So my first experience was in 2012, where I proposed at the time. There was a bit of naivety there. A new Master of Cybersecurity at the University of Waikato. I'm proud to say that there are some graduates of that as well, of the cybersecurity program, and who are movers and shakers in New Zealand. It's now the top program in New Zealand with a large number of alumni. And then in 2015, because of the success of the program, I was asked by the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet in New Zealand to design, basically draft the entire nation's cybersecurity curriculum. No pressure. So I had to do it on really short notice as well. If you work with some of the government officers as well, sometimes the deadlines are quite tight. So I was supposed to do it on a short notice. Now it's implemented across the nation. The third thing that I had experienced was at the same time, I was nominated by Cloud Security Alliance and ISC Squared, which is the big body of professional certification in cybersecurity, to design a brand new cloud security professional certification. So it was mostly because of my research at cloud security from HP and Waikato. But now, somehow it's also the gold standard certification of cloud security professionals. And then in 2017, with the formation of the Institute for Security and Crime Science, with 2 campuses across Wellington and Hamilton, we designed a new master's, which is also interdisciplinary, or I would say cross-disciplinary. I'll differentiate them later on. And then moving on to UQ came calling, and then right now still actively contributing to Queensland government and AustCyber, who you heard from just now. And I'm very privileged, I see many of you and I recognize your faces, that you are my past, present, future students. Because if I haven't taught you yet, I most likely will teach you soon. Yeah. So this is a great feeling. But I also want to point back, and I want to, because I'm the last guy, so I thought I want to bring this to a nice conclusion about the story of how this all began, right? So in 2018, Taejun and I, where's Taejun? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we visited the Korea University actually in December 2018. And, we reached out to Professor Lim and his team. And Professor Kim was also there, as you can see from the picture. So, see how things have turned out. And I think I look twice the age now, but, ever since coming to UQ. And because I'm the last guy, I want to also encourage the Korean counterparts, right, to imagine our future gatherings at Brisbane. So this is Brisbane. I stole these slides from the student recruitment team, so I credit to them. And I just want to show you, because we have been looking at Zoom and screens, right? I want to show you some nice photographs of where we are currently working at. So this is Brisbane, and our St. Lucia campus was once voted 11 in the world. I went to check, it's no longer 11. Some other campuses have overtaken us, but this is where we are, the purple circle that we are at. So we're at the peninsula of a river, and when it floods, yeah, let's not imagine that. But other than that, on a nice weather day, this is really beautiful, and you can see we're quite close to the city center, the skyscrapers there. And a bit about UQ is, we pride ourselves as one of the top universities in the world. And a bit about the group that we are doing. So we have heard about this a lot. The people make the subject interesting. So these are all the people who have come together. Really appreciate the research and teaching collaboration between ITS, OSCERT, government, industry, and all these faculties that you see here. For example, the humanities, arts and social science, engineering, architecture, IT, or school, business, economics and law, even medicine, Center for Policy Futures, one of you sitting here, Institute for Social Science Research, and many more, right? Resulting in the wide-ranging, programs that we offer. And some of the research areas that we do, as you can hear from Professor Dan Kim, his work is mostly in this area, autonomy and also IoT and cyber physical systems. So my area is mostly in the privacy, user control, and the IoT cyber physical system, and also critical infrastructure. And this is the topic today. Our team publishes actively, so these are some of the published works. But I want to ask, so this is the real talk now. So I had to do the obligatory introduction of my paymaster. What is interdisciplinary? Yeah, because we all say that it sounds like a nice thing, right? It's like that. everybody says it, right? But nobody really understands it. So this is the multidisciplinary, right? I'm using the primary colors, right? Because you know where I'm going to, right? So yeah, and then we have the cross-disciplinary, where the colors touch each other somehow, or they are sitting nicely next to each other, like you guys now. You're all cross-disciplinary audience. Then we have interdisciplinary. There's a bit of overlap now. You exchange ideas, and then we have the transdisciplinary, which is missing a T, R, A. It's appearing, okay. So there was a delay in the hearing. So transdisciplinary, of course, is when you mix everything together. It's kind of like to make a cake. The cake is the final product. And then when we begin, right, multidisciplinary is all the sugar, the flour, all these things, right? So everyone's vision is actually when we say we want to do an interdisciplinary program, we are meaning actually transdisciplinary. But I'm also pragmatic because I know that we are not there yet. So we will call ourselves interdisciplinary for now. And I can share a bit about my context of why I say that way. So this was my work at Waikato. So I would say that what we used to do, the idea of a cross-disciplinary degree was not intentional. It was just because we felt that we needed to add people who knows about ethics and law into the program, just like the previous speaker has mentioned as well. And we thought it's really good, and it's a good way for two schools to collaborate. It was very naive and innocent, and then we eventually grew into that degree that has that thing. But at the end of the day, the students still go through those courses in sequence. The courses don't overlap. Yeah, and it's quite interesting. The other degrees is pretty much the same. And then we have interdisciplinary. This is where it gets a bit more complicated. And John and I are still suffering from the effects of the design. So when we call it interdisciplinary core subjects, we have a core. Okay, so which is the overlapping thing, this Venn diagram. For us, actually, we have 4 circles, but I'll go to that later, right? And then the overlapping one, I was quite amazed to see that when I actually blend the two colors together, PowerPoint gave me green. So electives are actually those that cross inside, but there's also the specialization. We felt that it is our duty to teach the interdisciplinary core at the beginning, and then we start to let the students go into their specialization. That's how we thought it would be. Plus, of course, if you heard, for those who have stayed on today, you have heard, industry placement is important, and any diverse background is also important. So we took the radical choice to take in people from any background. Hopefully, you guys haven't regretted your decision. But this is what we have done, and this is how it looks like formally. We block it into 6 months, each rectangle, although it's not the scale, each block here is about 6 months. And we have multiple exit points. So if you find a job within the 6 months, you can graduate with a grad cert. Or if you find a job within 12 months, you can graduate with a grad diploma, and then from 18 months to 24 months, that will be a master's degree. And this master's has 4 named fields of study. So after they do the green box in the core, they branch into their specialization. So we have a T-shaped curriculum. So that was our intention, and then they have some electives, the overlapping Venn diagram. So this is our thinking process, and we were quite gung-ho and proud of it, and I think so far, the best news was one of our students was just saying that he found a job, recently in Canberra, and he hasn't graduated yet, So it's a bittersweet moment, we know that he's trained well and he's leaving us, but at the same time, we wish that he would finish, so it's a kind of a balancing act there. So which leads me to this question, which is the theme of this talk, right? What is the best interdisciplinary educational framework? So now that we understand what is interdisciplinary, we start to realize that it is hard to find the best, because it's really difficult to do in the first place. So we're all actually at the beginning stages. we're building the aeroplane as we are flying it, So it's really hard to say the best. But I would say there are a few prominent ones. And these are the two examples that I'm giving you today. The first one was what our degree is, at least the cyber defense side and cyber defense side and a little bit of the leadership side is based on. Now, it's the NICE framework, the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education Framework, and by NICE. So our whole degree is actually aligned to this framework because it is job focused. The framework is designed to cover what the professionals want to see when they hire someone. So we thought that's the most pragmatic thing. And as I go through the gigantic spreadsheet, we start to realize that they are missing a few things. They're missing cryptography, they're missing criminology, they're missing policy skills, right? So obviously it's focusing on now, not so much on the future. But we believe that these other extra skills are also necessary. And hence, we design our masters that way. The next one is the popular one. So if you go to most cybersecurity schools around the world now, you'll find the ACM curriculum starting to dominate more and more. But, it is ultimately still rooted in a technical background. And I want to say this because this is their own definition. The Joint Task Force defines cybersecurity as a computing-based discipline. Okay, and then at the end, they added everyone in. It's like the STEM plus, right? That where or STEM becomes STEAM, and then STEAM becomes STEAM plus, right? So in the end, everybody adds in more and more, and we don't know what we're talking about. So that's our danger. So we need to know what we are trying to achieve here, and which is really, ultimately we shouldn't be too much focused on the frameworks. Professor Corey Scow, very fortunate to be one of his mentees, and the other being Jill Slade, who is the chair of the AWSN. He mentioned that frameworks begets more frameworks, just gets more and more. Ultimately, we just have to look at how to give the value for the students and prepare them for the future. So we know it's hard to implement, it needs buy-in, right? So as mentioned by Michael Brunick in the morning, this university has invested dozens of millions of dollars into this program. But when you achieve it, it's magic, right? So Nathaniel, for example, was a good story just now. Craig Schoon, one of my first students from Waikato, he spent 10 years as a McDonald's manager, and then he decided he wanted to do computer science, and then he studied with us, and now he's a senior manager in Deloitte doing cybersecurity consulting. And we have Mani and Roger, those who are in the same cohort as them would know, they also got some jobs recently, and both of them actually are cross-trained. They both had previous experiences as well. And they bring their experience with them and bring value to the cybersecurity curriculum. And that's the beauty that in session 2 we heard about. And these are real life examples. I'm happy to link you to them if you want to validate what I just said. So, and then the government and industry tells us the now, but our duty at universities like Korea University, UQ, is to include both now and future. Then we always have this struggle, right? Should we cover breadth or specialize? So we had T-shaped thing. How do we keep updated to all the latest things? Maybe we could do a capstone internships. And then we must not neglect preparing everyone here for the future. And then the other problem, which is mentioned a few times, was generally the public is not ready because they all think that cybersecurity is the robot or everyone wearing a hoodie and so on. There needs to be improvements on the description and more media featuring the diversity of the jobs. Right? What can we do now? Okay. We can create not just the curriculum, but also the environment, which the previous speaker also mentioned. So these are some of the examples, and I'm going to show you a series of pictures before I finish my talk. Right? Because after all, I'm the last guy, so I don't want to bore you, and I don't want to see everybody collapse in their seats. So this was one example of a good student environment. You will see John also 30 years younger than his current self. With Elsie, who's here right now, and a few others. And Oshi, yes, that's right. They're all here. They all look younger in this photograph. So this is what cyber do to you. And this was a success at the interdisciplinary. So we have two technical students, and then Elsie's criminology, and then we have Chris, who also had a job, and thanks everyone for the time at Cyber 912. He's in policy and political science, and actually Amelia's colleague as well. And we have John, of course, who was the coach, the chief coach of the team. And this team rocked the boat. I'm very proud of them because they won the best written submission in their first entry into the competition and won the overall third place, despite having no prior experience. And so this is the magic of it. And for those who wonder why is it such a weird number, 9/12, because it's the day after 9/11, the catastrophe. How do you recover from that, from something of that scale? And then of course we see it. Elsie is like a superstar in all the pictures here now. So so these are the the teams that are winning different competitions. And if you notice the date, right? This is probably the last group I sent overseas until now. Yeah. So this February 2020. So they were there in Japan wearing masks, and I think some of the Korean counterparts were there as well in the global cybersecurity camp. These are some of our labs. We are trying to build this to basically give the best environment to our students. An agile security operations center, device testing lab with its own Faraday's cage and so on. And also a digital twin for energy production and consumption and all the different industrial control systems. One thing for sure, right? I want to end with this quote, which I actually heard 2 weeks ago. Because I was meeting this CEO in Townsville Enterprise. Townsville is a city in North Queensland, and its weather is pretty much reminds me of where I came from, Singapore, hot and humid. so it's quite interesting place. And the CEO of Townsville Enterprise said one day, you cybersecurity experts are going to be like the accountants and lawyers. You're going to be highly paid and do all the so-called boring jobs, but you'll be needed in every organization or customers. Okay, think about that, right? How interesting. Yeah. So questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan and Professor Kwon, for both of your contributions. So when I was asked to MC this session, and I was asked to it was important to me to sort of put out perhaps some provocative questions that we might put on our two speakers. And I reflected on some of the questions that I actually get from the students. So part of my role is as the convener of the Master of Cybersecurity. And we have students coming and they're investing a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of financial resources to studying cybersecurity here at UQ, and I'm sure the same is true at Korea University. So I've kind of taken this into consideration. So the first question I want to kind of throw out to our panel of two. So in the context of cybersecurity education, so one of the clear benefits of certifications like the CISSP, which Ryan's involved in the curriculum, and the OSCP, and I know we've got a couple of people in the room with an OSCP certification. One of the benefits of those is that they're internationally recognised, and they provide a soft guarantee of a minimum set of skills that a holder has. If you're an employer, you know what the OSCP entails, you know what someone holding an OSCP can do. The same is not really the case for postgraduate and, in fact, undergraduate cybersecurity education. So my question, and I'll throw first to you, Ryan, and then ask for Professor Kwon's response. My question is, how do we, as tertiary cybersecurity educators, how do we respond to this challenge? Is it a problem? Is it something that we need to address? And it gets into that broader question of the relative positioning of certifications versus tertiary qualifications. So Ryan, if you could have a go first, please.
Yeah. There are a few questions there. First is whether it's a problem for CISSP to coexist with degrees, right? The short answer is no, there's no problem because CISSP and university degrees aim to do different things. The certification proves that you have the baseline knowledge and application of a professional. So when we designed the CCSP with Squared, the first thing they did was to ask us what a job task would be like. So they said, okay, this is what a professional looks like and all these things. Okay. But you say, oh wow, actually degrees also do that, right? So what's the difference, you know? Yeah, but that is very focused. The certification part is very focused on the specific skill set and domains and application, while the university is not just doing that. It's also training the thinking and also training the application into a future where sometimes some of these technologies that certification bodies cover may not cover. Okay, the degree that I took when I was an undergrad, I believe that I was going to be a game programmer. Here I am now, right? So it was just very interesting, but the very basic things that they teach us at the time, you know, was also still is applicable to some of the things that I do. Now, recognized overseas and internationally. I think that for ISC Squared, the main catapult for its recognition is because of its certifications being recognized by the federal government in the US. It stated that, look, we're going to only recognize this number of certifications, and ISC Squared's ones are some of them. OSCP is not one of them, but I believe it will one day be, and so on. And OSCP is interesting because it's, you know, it leads me to my next point is to get them, it takes a lot of effort as well. So OSCP, you need to, you know, defend the system in 48 hours, is that right?
No, you attack them in 24.
And you attack them in 24. So you see, so there's a lot of hard work put in to prove that you're of the baseline of that industry. And for the same goes for CISSP or CCSP, you need to score at least 70% to pass. Yeah, and you need to clock 5 years experience after that to be a certified professional. So it's not an easy road. They are not transferable. But what's the ideal situation is the university has both flavors, and it allows the student not just to be trained in a degree, but also be certified. The best analogy is the medicine field. And you know, the quote that I gave was a kind of, I was preempting for John's question. Yeah, the quote that I gave about accountants, right? Accountants are trained in university as well, but they also have their own chartered accountant structure. The same goes for our cybersecurity program. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, look, thanks very much for that, Ryan. I'd like to throw now to Professor Kwon for your thoughts on how, or indeed whether it's necessary for us to work on transferability and international recognition of cybersecurity tertiary education. Professor Kwon.
Can you please tell the question one more time? Excuse me.
Yes, so the question relates to the relationship between tertiary education and certifications, industry certifications in cybersecurity.
You mean the industry cybersecurity?
I don't understand the communication. Maybe that is technical, some problem. I cannot clearly understand your voice from over the microphone. So your question is that, yes, that is. It is.
Hello, Professor Kwon.
고 교수님, 질문사항이 그 대학에서 그 사이버 시큐리티 공부를 한 다음에 그 인더스트리 필드로 나갈 때 우리가 자격증을 꼭 따야 되느냐 이런 것들에 대한 질문이에요. 이걸 하는 게 필요한지 아니면 따려면 어떻게 해야 되는지 이런 거예요. 얘기할 수
네네,
있어요.
알고 계셔서 감사합니다. 안 그래도 이메일에 계신 걸 내가 들었는데 거기서 좀 도와주세요. 그럼 제가 한국어로 답변을 해드릴게요.
예.
네, 고맙습니다. 우리 한국에서는 지금 특별한 자격증을 필요로 하지는 않고 사실 되게 중요한 이슈는 저는 이 자격증 제도하고 우리 과정의 베이스는 두 가지 측면으로 볼 수 있다고 생각해요. 하나는 보편적으로 가지고 있는 이제 스킬셋에 관해서 테크니컬 스킬셋에 관한 것은 보편적으로 글로벌리 인정되는 자격증이 있잖아요. CIS, SP나 지금 얘기하는 것처럼 여러 자격증이 있는데 대학에서 주는 학위는 마스터 디그리로 정리가 되면 마스터 디그리나 PhD 디그리나 아니면은 이제 배철러 디그리가 나가면 그 과에서 무엇을 배웠는지를 그냥 인더스트리에서 이게 알고 있죠. 그런데 제일 중요한 이슈는 보편적인 정보보호 기술을 갖고 있는 것은 이걸로 다 해결이 돼요. 그런데 실제 산업계에서 필요로 하는 것은 그 해당 산업에 대한 도메인 노리지가 되게 필요한 상황이 있어요. 그래서 그 부분을 각각 인증해 주거나 또는 표시할 수 있는 글로벌 서티피케이션이 있다 그러면 그거는 도움이 될 것 같아요. 표준화가 된다 그렇게 되는데 한국의 경우는 우리 대학원이 다양한 형태의 시큐리티를 하지만 한쪽은 파이낸셜 시큐리티라고 한쪽은 디지털 포렌식을 하고 한쪽은 또 융합 보안화, 컨버전스 시큐리티를 하는 이유가 그 해당 분야에 맞는 사람으로 특화된 인력을 필요로 한다는 점이 이 인더스트리에서 되게 중요한 이슈인데 앞으로 글로벌리도 똑같다는 생각을 하고 있습니다. 너무 길어서 죄송한데 메시지는 전달이 되겠죠?
네, 제가 좀 짧게 해서 전달을 하도록 하겠습니다. From their point of view, the degree from the tertiary education is different from the certification by the industry area. So from their point of view, it's quite different. So in case we get a bachelor degree or high master degree on cybersecurity, then that will guarantee of the what you have learned. But in the case of industry area, they require specific or particular knowledge about the industry, like financial security or forensic or those kind of things. So if there are some kind of specific certification for that each area, then that could be helpful. But from their point of view, just general one like the CISSP or CSSP do not recommended, I think.
When it comes to make international certification for the security professions, I think it can be categorized the first level as the whole component, every common skill test for the all the industry and the policy making that can certificate on the level of the capacity of the holder. And the other one is to make the deeper category for the special domain, like as the financial industry, and the other one is the energy plant or the energy distribution energy industry, and the other one is the infrastructure and the communication and so on. So they need the special certification for the adoption is needed for the domain industry. So I think that is the categorize is to be divided from the commonly and the deeply and so on.
Can I also quickly add that certifications actually can expire after 5 years if you don't renew it, and degrees do not expire. Especially those degrees that are aligned to the Seoul Accord or the Washington Accord, they are all internationally recognized.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Professor Kwon. Are there any questions here in the room at UQ or on Zoom or on the premises at KU? Yeah, Rob.
Thanks. So I noticed that the Career University curriculum, hang on, sorry, I'll give you this. So I noticed that the Career University emphasizes cyber war. That doesn't seem to be something that exists in the UQ curriculum at the moment. Is that something that you would consider adding?
Yeah, so the cyber war room, there is, in fact, we have one that is just built. In fact, that inspiration came from Korea. And 2018, when we visited Korea University and Kitri's Best of the Best program, we managed to learn from that, and we need to include that simulation curriculum. However, because of the COVID-19 supply chain problems, we are not able to set it up as quickly as we want. But we are hoping that by semester 2 next year, the cyber war room with the red team, blue team efforts will be in this picture here. No, it's not in this picture. So the cyber war room, there are 2 other specialized rooms. They will be transferring the realistic attack and defend data sets to the operations center for us to study. So there will be an integration as well. So you can stay here for another 2 years. Yes.
Thanks very much, Ryan, and thanks, Ryan, for the question. Look, we're just about at time. I'm going to just ask Ryan and Kana, do you want to do another question, or do you want to wrap it up and keep to the schedule? It's really keep to the schedule. Keep to the schedule. Okay. All right. So look, that's all we have time for in the cybersecurity education session. Thanks very much, Professor Kwon and the supporting crew at Korea University. Thanks very much, Ryan.